Alright, let's draw some shapes. So this is a pretty straightforward lab. What we're going to do today is draw a whole bunch of shapes. So for example, you can see if I press the 1 key, you're going to see I draw a triangle. If I press the 2 key, I draw a square. If I press the 3 key, draw a pentagon, etc. So this lab is basically going to be about moving the sprite around, turning in different angles, and then drawing a line between each of those steps. So let's get down to it. Now let's start drawing our first shape. You might think because the triangle only has 3 sides and the square has 4, the triangle might actually be easier to do than the square, but I think that it's a little more intuitive to do the square. Because the square, we know that all the corners are 90 degrees. We know that we're going to go 4 times, we're going to move 4 times, and turn 4 times at 90 degrees between each one of those turns. So what we should do is start with the square. Now before we do anything, we need to find a control block that's going to let us start our script. Now as you recall, when I was demoing this, I was using the number keys to draw different shapes. I was using the 1 key, 2 key, 3 key. The 1 was the triangle, 2 was the square, 3 was the pentagon. So we're going to do the same. We're going to use this control block right over here. This is the when key pressed block. So instead of using space, we're going to click here and we're going to make it so when we press the 2 key, it's going to draw the square. Now you remember that the square was on the second one because the first one is going to be the triangle, right? It's going to go in order of how many sides. So let's start with 2. So when we press the 2 key, we're going to want to start drawing the square. So the first step when you start drawing things is you're going to want to put down the pen. Now we're going to put the pen down and we're going to basically start drawing the square right away. Now as you recall, if you want to draw a square, you're going to move forward 100 or some amount, let's say 100. Then you're going to turn right 90 degrees, move forward, turn right, move forward, turn right, move forward. So we're going to move forward 4 times and we're going to turn 1, 2, 3 times. And then you can actually turn 1 more time at the end just so you end up in the same direction that you started. So let's give it a shot. Let's move forward 100 steps. Turn 90 degrees. If you're having trouble visualizing this, by the way, think of yourself moving in this direction. Just going to move 100 steps. Turn 90 degrees. Move 100 steps. Turn 90 degrees. Move 100 steps. Turn 90 degrees. Let's see what this looks like. As you can see, this draws a nice rectangle. Now, I went kind of quickly there, and I kind of just went straight to the answer. But when you're programming stuff, you're always going to want to go a little bit more incrementally. So for example, if I started with this, you might say, all right, how much further do I need to go? So the first thing you're going to want to see, by the way, is when you're going incrementally, when you're trying out things, the sprite's going to leave behind quite a mess. Look at all this stuff that's drawn in the background. So whenever you click 2, not only are you going to draw the rectangle, the square, but before you even start, we should clear things out. We should make sure to start by clearing the map. Another thing I actually like to do, because your sprite, as you're experimenting, it could end up anywhere. It could end up down here, it could end up here. It's good to move him to the center of the screen, which is 0, 0. That'll move him right into the middle over here. These are really nice reset steps when you're drawing stuff. Just reset by going back to the middle to 0, 0, clearing to delete everything, putting the pen down, and here's one last one that you might not have thought about. Make them point in this direction. Make them point to the right. If you point in direction 90, it's going to point this way. So you're always going to be facing the correct way. You're always going to be facing the right. And that's really useful because that way we can be very consistent. We always start the same way. So these are good steps to start every single shape drawing. Now let's start playing around with this. By the way, just to show you what this does, it just moves the sprite. Let's say the sprite's out here. This will always move it so it's in the middle, facing the right, and it clears down the map and puts down the pen so we can start drawing. All right, now that we do that, we are going to do this one step at a time. Let's see what happens when you just go 100 steps and turn 90 degrees. Right? We're almost there, but we still need a couple more steps. I'm going to duplicate these. If you right click and do duplicate, it's going to duplicate both of these. Everything below wherever you right clicked. And now let's try this. Let's see how far along this gets us. So here we went straight, turned right, went straight, turned right, and now we just have 2 more edges to go. So we can try one more, see how far this gets us. Looks like we need 1 more. And there we go. This is actually a great way to program, is to do things incrementally. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the only real way to program. I think whenever you program anything, you should always do things one step at a time. That's going to get you a lot more reasonable, smaller steps that you can really wrap your mind around. Okay? It's going to make things much less confusing, much easier to do. So one last thing I want to show is, you might notice if I press 2, it's always just going to draw the square very, very quickly. So if I go ahead and clear, the square gets drawn instantly. Let's say you want to see that step by step. There's a very handy button here called Visual Stepping, these 2 little footprints. If you click on that, you get this gauge. It starts all the way to the right. Let's move it around the middle right here. What this will do is it'll actually slow down the script, so it's running it 1 step at a time. You can see the steps being run. So let's press 1 right now, or sorry, let's press 2 right now. Notice that it's going 1 step at a time. It's going to go forward, right, forward, right, forward, right, forward. And notice you can see every step. If you actually look in the script, it's going to show you which step it's doing. It's going to highlight it. Take a good look here. Notice that it's highlighting which step it's doing. This is a really handy way to see what you're going through. So with that, let's move on to the next shape, which is going to be the triangle. So the next step is going to be the triangle, which is actually going to be a little bit trickier. And the reason is because it's not super clear right away how much we want to turn after each step. So for the square, it's pretty clear because we know we're going to just turn 90 degrees. Either way, it's going to be 90 degrees. So the triangle is a little bit less clear. So for this, we're going to do an equilateral triangle, which means all the sides and all the angles, all the internal angles, are going to be the same. So how much are we going to have to turn left or right in order to draw the triangle? For that, let's refer to this really handy little chart. So even if you haven't taken a geometry class in school yet, this is all going to give us the information we need. So forget about the equation on the top. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the angles for each of these shapes. Let's focus right now on the equilateral triangle. Notice that there's 2 angles displayed here. There's the inner angle, which is 60 degrees, and then the outer angle, which is 120 degrees. So the question is going to be, which one of these we want to use for our turn degrees block? So I'm going to give you the answer right away. It's actually going to be the 120 degree angle. And you might wonder, why is that? Well, let's actually show it off here. Let's visualize this. So let's go back into Snap. Let's say that you are going to try to move your sprite. So let's clear out the map from the square that we had earlier. And let's do the following. Let's say we move 100 degrees, or sorry, 100 steps after we put the pen down. In fact, let's go ahead and put this inside a when the 1 key press. And you know what, why not? Let's just do all of our starting spot. Let's do all the go to 0, 0, clear, etc. All the same stuff we did before. So now the question is, if I'm going to turn left, am I going to turn 30 degrees, sorry, 60 degrees, or 120 degrees? It might look like you only want to turn 60 degrees because you just need to make this little turn. But let's see what happens when we actually do that. If we just turn 60 degrees to the left, make sure you do the left one, what is this going to look like? Notice that it's actually now turning to face this way. So if I were to go forward from here, it doesn't really look like I'm doing a triangle. By the way, let's make it point to direction 90 as well. It doesn't really look like I'm drawing a triangle. It looks like I'm drawing a different shape. Let's look at it this way. Let's move us back to the middle. Let's clear again. And let's rotate to face the right. Let's move 10 degrees at a time. I'm going to click on this just so you can see. Each time I click on this, I'm going to be moving 10 degrees. So if I click it, you see that I'm just kind of turning gradually, Here I clicked it 9 times, so I'm facing 90 degrees. And if I click 3 more times, I went all the way around to where I want for the triangle, right? So starting again, if I only click 6 times for 60 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, notice that I didn't turn enough to go all the way to make a triangle. 3 more times is 90 degrees. 3 more times is 120 degrees. And now you can see that we've turned enough to actually draw our triangle. So instead of turning 60 degrees, let's use this outer angle and let's turn 120 degrees. So let's see what that looks like. Now we're going to move 100 steps, turn 120 degrees, and you see that we're in position to, when we go forward, we're going to actually make it draw a triangle. So let's try that out. See, it looks like it's much better than it was earlier. And now let's draw the rest of it. So now we just need to turn again. So it's going to be again 120 degrees. Make sure you're turning in the same direction. That's this arrow right here. So see, we're going to be facing the right way, and then we're going to move another 100 steps. And the extra kicker, let's go ahead and make it turn 100 degrees, the right direction. 120 degrees, one more time, so that we end up facing the same direction in which we started. So from the beginning, we turned 100 steps. Sorry, we walked 100 steps, and then we turned all the way around 120 degrees. And then we walked again, turned all the way around 120 degrees, walked again, and turned 120 degrees again, just so we ended up facing the right once again. Right? So you can see that by just using this handy diagram, without having taken a geometry class, as long as you rely on just using that outer angle, the one that, not the one that's inside the triangle, but the one that's outside, that's the one that's going to guide you to how much you want to turn with your snap blocks to draw out the triangle. So just to see it step by step. And there we have it. There you have a nice little equilateral triangle. If you really want to know the math that you want to use, this little formula at the top will kind of show you. You want to divide 360 by the number of sides. That's how much you want to turn. Right? That's the external angle. So for example, for a triangle, if you divide 360 by 3, it's going to be 120. That's how much you want to turn for each of your corners. All right, so let's move on to the last one we'll cover, which is the pentagon. And the rest of the assignment is going to be up to you. So we're almost there. We have the triangle and we have the square. As you see, I cleaned things up a little bit here. Let's take a look at what we've got so far. If I press 1, I got the triangle. If I press 2, I got the square. You can press them as much as you want, and they will draw correctly. You might notice they're facing different directions. One of them is going down, one of them is going up. It's okay. It just depends on which direction you turned. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw the next one. So the triangle has 3 sides, square has 4 sides, so we're going to draw something with 5 sides, which is going to be the pentagon. The instructions for the assignment also have a diamond. That one is going to be the challenge one that is going to be up to you. And there's, I believe, one other one as well. All right, so let's figure out how to draw the pentagon. For the pentagon, let's look at the chart real quick to figure out what the angle is going to be. So as I mentioned in the previous part, we are going to use this outer angle in order to figure out how much we need to turn our sprite. So we're going to walk, and then we're going to turn by the outer angle. So looking at this chart, we see that 72 degrees is how much we want to turn in order to properly make a pentagon. So we're going to take a nice big shortcut. We're going to duplicate this entire block. So we're going to take everything we did in the square, and we're only going to change the stuff we need. So this gives us all of the starting blocks that we need. So we have go to the middle. Once again, what this lets us do is it lets the sprite make sure that it starts in the middle. We clear, which deletes everything. We put the pen down to make sure we're drawing, and we point in direction 90, which makes it so we consistently start by pointing to the right. So we're always pointing in the same direction when we start. Okay, and then we can actually start doing our moving and our turning. So we're going to once again move 100 steps. This time, instead of turning 90 degrees, we're going to turn 72 degrees, because that's what the diagram showed was the outer angle for the pentagon. Then we are going to do this 5 times. Notice that for the triangle, we did these 2 steps 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3. For the square, we did it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the pentagon, we're going to do this 5 times. So I'm going to clear these out, and I'm going to duplicate these 2 steps. The turn, or move 100 steps, turn 72 degrees. All right, so let's do this 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have move and turn 1, move and turn 2, move and turn 3, move and turn 4, move and turn 5. And once again, we want to do this when we press the 3 key. So let's press 3. And there you go. You drew a pentagon. See it step by step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you see from taking our little tip, as long as you use that outer angle that's in this diagram, we are able to know just how far we need to turn to draw the shapes without having taken any geometry classes. All right? And with that, we have done all of the things we needed for this. We have the triangle, we have the square, we have the pentagon, and now it's up to you to finish the rest of the shapes from the assignment. But hopefully this should get you started. And with that, that's all we're going to cover right now. And good luck on the rest of the assignment, and I'll see you next time.